Hello and welcome back to the PLP. I've decided to come along for the watch along today because we've reached a bit of a fork in the road with the season. 1 week left, but for the NLP it actually ends today. I thought I'd go through a quick summary of what's been happening over the last few days before we settle into today's action. It's been a bit of a mental week. I haven't been able to join and add my horrendous voice to it, but from a League One standpoint they've been building up to today, and you can see there that Matty is the first highlighted game, or in theory should be, and if he wins he secures promotion to the Championship. We're also going to go to Swansea to see Thomarse try and chase down Foyverton, who you'd expect to beat to win today at home to Sheff Utd B, but we will probably go to Goodison next week if he's still in the driving seat for that second spot. Elsewhere this week, the NLP was kind of decided at the start of the week, Marshyside seeing off Manchestaff to end the latter's hopes of a playoff position. And then actually second and third have been cemented. They're the two Craigs, otbCraig and NottinGiant, Muff and Daniels. And then the two Toms, Necruz and Gourlay, settled in fourth and fifth. So they'll have sort of seeding for the first round of the playoffs, hoping to face those Craigs in the semi-finals. Then you go on to League Two, and it's all but secured for Lawrence to become the champion, not only promoted, which he's guaranteed last weekend, but he's pretty much on the cusp of winning the title. Just behind him though, Dauncey's Devils, if they win today, they will join Lawrence as guaranteed League One competitors next year. Beyond that, it looks like it's a straight fight between the Skyloos and Sheff, the latter getting a good win earlier this week for that third promotion spot. The Skyloos have the games in hand, and actually now they've got a bit of a free run at it because their Conference League semi-final isn't until after the season finishes. Same goes for Warringham in the Champions League and Dan City Y in the Europa League. They can just focus on those league games because the season will be done by the time they get to semi-final action. In Europe, towards the lower end of the League Two playoffs, we had probably the game of the season where Dauncey came from 2-0 down and 3-all to snatch a fourth late winner, Ollie Watkins, giving himself a bit of breathing room in seventh in the League Two playoffs, actually catching up with the Red Wall in the process. But just behind are a host of teams who we're going to see a few of them today. Jazz of the Rovers and Bustin Villa can both go within 1 or 2 points of Dauncey, Dan Gregory, and myself and Craig are both playing non-draft opposition today, hoping to keep our names vaguely in the mix. I think that's everything. Just a long-winded summary. It's been difficult to try and portray that through an audio-less highlights reels, but we'll now jump into today's action. And we are starting where I wanted us to. I see manager S. Ferguson, that S standing for Sir. And it's lovely to see Alex Manninger on a pretty wretched week in Manninger news. Sadly dying yesterday in a car crash, horrendous. But that's partly what this is for. Not just nostalgia, but reigniting some icons and legends and bizarre names from the past. In fact, I think Mark Vivian Foe is part of the Ellister squad. Chipped in a few times this season, and Manninger a quality save there. It is fitting that Matty is the first team to secure promotion. He's been so dominant this year. Finished second last season in League Two behind Jamie, but he's been in control from pretty much minute 1 in this season up until about the 7th minute of the 45th game. It would be extraordinary if he doesn't get promoted from here. But it's pretty much a prerequisite that Foden scores at least 2 or 3 per game, especially at home. So I wouldn't read too much into that early goal. Just behind him, Foyverton and Thomarse now only separated by 1 point, but Jamie's got a pretty favourable matchup today. Whereas Thomas is going to a bit of a banana skin in Swansea B. I think actually this is their 44th game, so it's not quite curtains if Thomas loses and Jamie wins today, but as good as you'd think. I believe Jamie only needed one more win from the last two. There it is, it's taken 42 minutes. All to play for in the second half now. Gluzny with a initial clearance. Not good enough. And actually, he might not need the second half. It's Kulusevski again, off the bar. So initially, the highlights reel today was going to be all five of the six NLP games just to see through the end of the season, but because there was actually nothing riding on any of them, and a lot riding on these League 1 and 2 games. Last minute pivot. Wish I checked before the game. I'm not sure what a draw does. Whether that confirms the title as well. Is he offside? He's on. Eric Cantona at the back post looked suspiciously offside, but no, he's ghosted in. And hopefully I won't need to do that maths of whether a draw is enough. Surely not going to falter from here. Oh, what a goal. It's not Joe Willock that's just come on because he's playing at Gourlayverpool in the NLP. So that must be Chris Willock acquired from QPR 24. See, I've got no control over those kinds of transfers. Or I could have, but life's too short. The reason all these league games are taking place on Friday this week is because we're in FA Cup semi-final territory tomorrow. Jorginho, 5th and 6th of the season, coasting to the Championship. See what FA Cup semi-finals. I think there are a couple of League 2 games with it tomorrow. Not everyone's playing today. But that is the main focus. And Sir Alex seems to have been the most inspired draft choice of them all. Like I've said before, I wouldn't have said that Ellister have the best draft team necessarily, but the difference maker seems to be just that clinical 4-4-2 overseen by the Great One. Well done, Matty Ellis. 2 consecutive promotions, and he'll be first name into the Championship next season. Can Thomas Keeble, the birthday boy, join him? I'm going to say happy birthday now because I cannot guarantee that FM will deliver the same level of gift over the next 90 minutes. You see it 1 point behind and an inferior goal difference as well. And a rare outing for Romelu Lukaku. Even rarer outing for the Sol Campbell overhead kick. But yeah, it's usually Giroud, and if not Giroud, Ansu Fati likes to go down the middle normally. Arteta finally giving Lukaku the game time that he probably expected before the injury and then the isolation. The guy who went in the other direction, Matt Letizia, he could have done with him at the times this year, I'm sure. He's put Jazz the Rovers right in the mix for the playoffs, still in League 2. Bit of a drab first half. do with it. Pretty much in control, but control isn't going to reduce the distance to Foyverton. What is it with centre-backs trying bicycle kicks? You already am at it this time. Even less likely than Sol Campbell, I'd have thought. It does look like a slightly impenetrable back 7 or back 8 that Swansea have gone for today. And he's got 20 minutes to try and break through. Fatty's down the middle now. Guessing Giroud's out. This could be a huge result for Foyverton, presuming they win their later game. This is why I said happy birthday before the game started, because there's no presents coming from FM. Just had a sneaky suspicion about that game. And just like Foyverton later, this should be a formality, a nice home victory to secure, in this case, genuine promotion, not almost promotion. It'll be job done. Haven't seen Dauncey for a little while. He'd been on 43 games a while ago. Fleeting appearances in recent weeks. But as I said many times during sort of February and March, he was getting those points on the board while everyone else was accruing just games in hand, and no one's got near him. It looked like it might be worrying him. He's fallen by the wayside. Louis' charge was too late. Red Wall faltering around February. And Dauncey has just strolled into this second spot. Only White Hart Chamberlain even could keep up with him. And that is a great start. In all likelihood, I think he'll have to settle for second, which I'm sure is not a problem. And that'll put him 6th in the PLP rankings overall, considering the draft this summer. He does love a cheeky little draft, does Tom. But it'll be interesting to see how much he wants to get involved, or needs to get involved, considering how good this squad has been. Trent, that did not seem likely. Leaping up between two defenders in near the 6-yard box. From Steve Staunton, right-footed cross. You'd have expected that the other way around, to be honest. I'm happy for Tom. He's one of the people that have probably got involved with this whole PLP project. Taking it, say, seriously. As seriously as Tom takes anything. Got himself involved in every draft, every waiver window, transfer window. Messaging me at 11:59 to confirm that he still isn't done with transfers. Seems a far cry from that afternoon with the very first draft, where he spent about a week and a half trying to identify a left back to pick. He was the only person that nearly timed himself out in person. There were a few that I was having to text to chase because they had a few minutes left. He was sat right in front of me pushing his luck. Now look at him. I would say it would be lovely to see Tom in the summer for the next draft, but I'm pretty sure he'll have a 1-month-old at that stage, so I suppose I'll understand if you can't make it, mate. Talking about Matty's pick of Sir Alex early on in the draft, relatively. Dauncey went for Man United A as his team pick much earlier than anyone else went for their team choice, which at the time seemed a bit mental, sacrificing an early player pick. It's only taken him 2 seasons to put himself amongst the elite. Decent infrastructure, good youth team coming through, good staff complement, obviously good stadium and good facilities when they're not got holes in them and water coming through. And obviously the transition to Ancelotti over the summer, hugely logical considering he won the very first draft project we did back in COVID in 2020 with Ancelotti at the helm. He's got a 100% record of promotions with Ancelotti actually. And that Mason Mount goal is the cherry on the cake. Well done, Tom. Tom joining Lawrence for 2/3 of the way there in terms of our League 2 promotees this year. I'm glad we ended up pivoting away from the NLP today and managing to see this game, partly because Bustin Villa are still very much within that playoff hunt, and a win today would put him 1 point behind Dauncey with a game in hand, which is quite incredible considering where he was in December. Sorry, 2 points behind, so in theory it's his to lose. Obviously difficult to put that into action considering very few of us can win 2 or 3 games in a row. It's also good to see Arsened because we probably wouldn't have seen Ned's boys again for the rest of the season. They're very much in no man's land in terms of their league positioning, and it did seem like they didn't have many significant matchups either. But this will be a nice way to say goodbye to a team that were in the mix up until around Christmas. Had a really good start to the year alongside the Red Wall because they were playing football like that. So it's definitely not a gimme that Bustin wins this. Ned went some way to spoiling the tractor Bolge's hopes. I think it was last weekend. A late Davor Suko goal, meaning Craig again lost pace with those playoff hopefuls. Nothing to say he can't do exactly the same thing to Paul today. So you look at that team and it's a full 11. Can't remember who's normally there alongside Mertesacker instead of Kivior, but other than that, it's a hell of a team. And it's Kivior that loses his man. One drafter who will be hoping that his fellow Arsenal fan can do him a favour is Jamie Scales, but so far not so good. Jazz has a tricky game of his own coming up against Leeds UniTodd, who technically are still in that playoff race too. That's coming up, I think, after this game. And if both Bustin and Jazz win, then it's going to be 2 points separating 7th, 8th and 9th. And both me and Craig have home games against non-draft opposition too, and we could creep ever closer. So we could still have that grandstand finish that would be fun. Is he on? Not quite. Sigh of relief for Bustin. I do love this Bustin Villa story though. Ron Atkinson was clearly just a fun pick. I don't think even Paul expected that it would end up in a playoff race. Having got rid of Jose Mourinho, who's just secured the NLP title and will be joining us all in League 2 next year. But to go from Mourinho to Atkinson and improve, it's just a fantastic story. The other element to that is that Paul basically got rid of all of his strikers over the summer. Had Collymore and Zlatan for most of last season with just one up front. Got rid of them two and at least one other as well. And he's kind of ended up with Eto'o and Mark Hughes on a good day, sometimes Moussa Diaby, and sometimes the likes of Pablo Angel, or even Darius Fossella at points in the early stages of this season. He's doing a very professional job here. Just makes such a difference when he's got Lampard and Petit in the middle, and usually Overmars and Poborski on the wings. That's a pretty perfect 4-4-2 midfield. Energy, pace on the wide areas, strength, and a very handy 3 points. So can Jazz do his bit? He predicted earlier that Pellegrini was going to just rotate his entire team, having only played a couple of days. First glance, it looks like maybe a couple of defensive shifts, but nothing too drastic. And actually, his complete demolition of me the other day had already seen the likes of Juninho come in for Letitia and a couple of rotation options at fullback. But no, I'd say this seems like right up there with one of his strongest team choices. Maybe Colin Hendry, the outlier there, ahead of Vidic. Not ahead of Vidic, must have been Laporte, sorry. Rosicki and for Matoma, the other change. But this definitely isn't an easy game. Leeds United have probably been one of the form teams since Christmas. Just had such a torrid start to the season, but lost out in the EFL Trophy final. Been a very, very handy league side for the most part. And with their games in hand, aren't out of the playoff competition yet. But they have got work to do. And they'd have to win here. Made a good start. Gary Speed threatening again. It's rare that you see 12 shots conceded at home in one half. And yet, this really would give Bustin Villa the upper hand on Jazz if he can. Sorry, if Leeds United can keep him restrained to just a point or worse. Oh, it's the second one off the line. Riding his luck slightly. And then at the other end, is he on? He is. Vidic into Henry. Great save from Szczesny. Ljungberg was pretty much unplayable. I say he's unplayable. My defenders decided not to play anyone, but he was quality the other day. Arsenal talisman nearly doing for the Arsenal fan. And Gary Speed, that's his third chance and the third goal line clearance. Can't fault the fight. I think Jazz would be hoping for a bit more control with the ball. Can he hold on? It's another chance squandered. So rare that you see this on FM. 19 shots to the away team. Poor Alex is heading for an FM skanking as things stand. And Jazz will not give a shit, rightly so. Still can't keep the ball. Forlan's there, and it's been coming. Snuck between Hendry and Vidic, of all people. About 16 foot between them. Oh, it might be the right back actually. Yeah, it might be Sanya. It was actually Mangala who'd come on, not doing himself any favours. And that could be a huge goal, not particularly helpful for either. Doesn't put Alex back in the mix and does damage Jazz's hopes of the playoffs very slightly. It's not over, of course, but I don't think even he could say that he deserved that win today. Right, so we're going to jump up to League One again quickly. And what a reprieve that is for Thomarse, looking straight away. That is unbelievable. Ranieri, after finding out the other day that his job would be saved if he could get promotion, not being helped out in the slightest by Gael Clichy getting himself sent off. Pretty sure that's a debut for Seth Johnson out on the left wing. Interesting timing to trial that particular experiment. And a nice win for Levi, building on his EFL trophy win to end the season strongly, which seems a bit redundant right now, but if he can carry some form into the playoffs, he'll definitely be there. I don't think either Thomarse or Foyverton will be relishing playing him. He's got a decent record at Wembley. Back down to League Two. With all due respect, a bit of a nothing game between Down City Y and Harry Valley. Doing nothing also for their points totals, to be honest. Defoe with the opener, cancelled out by Catman. And those latter two results. A nice picture for me and Bolge. Brace from Peter Beardsley of all people. Seeing me over the line after a torrid few games. I've had about 4 or 5 away games in a row and got 1 point. And yet somehow still in the playoff mix. For the life of him, Sir Bobby will not start Michael Owen. But Jonathan Woodgate's back and that's helpful. And a one-matter winner, 10 minutes remaining, overturning that early Jason Kumas goal. Raul Jimenez has had a bit of a run in the team since Bergkamp's injury, and then he's gone and got himself injured, so he joked about Chris Cormier getting more game time the other day. It might well be happening. And now we're going to go down to the NLP for the final time of the main season, and a nice end of season win for birthday boy Thomas Necruz. We've got a couple of Toms in the birthday books today. Juve Rosler giving Necruz the present that Swansea B would not give Keeble. Ending the season strongly actually. He'll be a danger in the playoffs, that's for sure, even though he has finished 5th. Gourlay, his good mate, finishing 4th. Ben Johnson and Timo Werner overturning David Healy's goal, who seems to be scoring against everyone lately. Marshy assuring that he has not lost a single game in the second half of the season. We were looking at stats together earlier, and Craig Trudgell's otbCraig didn't lose a single game in the first 23. Marshy didn't lose a single one in the latter 23, but he also didn't lose many in the first half of the season, whereas Craig has lost his wheels somewhat in the second half of the year. Bad timing to finally get a win. Did take an anti-goal penalty, so still not convincing, but an otherwise pretty horrendous year for Liam, in which actually he brought in David Moyes to replace Amorim, and he's actually done worse. Spoke to him the other day, and Moyes will certainly be back on the free agency market very soon. Interesting to see who Liam does get in to replace him. Fantastic win to continue some fantastic form for Craig Daniels. He's joined his namesake in the sort of the bye round. So in third, you don't have to play in the first round of the playoffs. You can just hold on and see who you get in the semi-finals. Does mean that we're absolutely guaranteed a newcomer in League 2 completely, because Liam's not in those playoffs, so we'll have one of the 4 newcomers. Will definitely be going up. That's nice. And a decent win for Craig, so at least he is carrying some momentum into those playoffs. Buendia and Mutu getting the all-important goals on the final day of the season. So just go up and look at those league tables. And there it is. Champions, in fact. Today was only supposed to secure promotion, but because both Foyverton and Thomarse dropped points, in theory they've brought Levi back into play. I think it's unlikely, but and you'd need a massive goal difference shift, so actually he's not really in play at all. Take that back. But yeah, Foyverton and Thomarse, nothing really changed, both dropping points. Down to League 2, and there you go, a couple of P's. As we said the other day, the best number on FM is the number P. And that third P, you'd still put it in the hands of Louis. 2 games in hand on Sheff with only 1 point behind and no European football to disrupt him. That being said, he's got to play 4 games in the next week or so. But 2 weeks maybe? When do we finish? On the 27th? So yeah, about 10 days. 4 games to go in 10 days, but doable. And he's navigated everything else pretty well so far. And then you can see Bustin Villa 2 points behind with a game in hand. Jazz missing out on the opportunity. I've got a game in hand even on Bustin, which would take me ahead, so technically it's in my hands, but unlikely. And Craig's still in the mix too. And finally, just confirmation of that NLP situation. You can see there that otbCraig and NottinGiant securing that mini break. Gourlayverpool up against Tottenham D, LuTom up against Burnley B, and Liam finishing 3 points outside the playoffs ultimately. Slightly annoying. I was hoping all the 24 teams would go down. Southampton D ruining that. Middlesbrough 24 keeping their place. And actually, Chris Wilde has been sacked. So that's another one for the manager movement. Another option for Liam and myself and whoever else wants to change their manager in the summer. That's us all caught up for now. Back in action tomorrow with FA Cup semi-finals and League 2. Apologies for the mass deluge of games today, but been catching up. We are now officially caught up. Congratulations again to Tom Dauncey, Matty Ellis, Lawrence Still, and of course Marshy. Catch you soon.